Welcome to the Haven Hubcast, a place to learn what business leaders, owners, and professionals are doing to navigate and grow in today's market. Hear from industry experts on everything from marketing, leadership, financing, and more. Brought to you by Haven, a co-working space where you can connect, create, and get stuff done.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Haven Hubcast. I'm your co-host, Nancy Sheed, and I am thrilled to be here with Rache Brand. Rache, welcome.
Hi, Nancy.
Rache is joining us today, and we are going to talk to her about a lot of things, how she came to Connecticut. But before we do that, we're going to talk about, Rache, who you are, wearing a couple of different hats. You are an investor and innovation strategist for brands, partnerships and experiences with your company called Rise, as well as your sort of newer hat that you're wearing here in Connecticut, which is as the innovation lead for Launch in Hartford, which is part of CT Next Innovation Partners. Did I get all that right?
Perfect. Thank you, Nancy.
Okay, there's a lot to unpack there, and I've alluded to the fact that you've journeyed to Connecticut. So I always love to start and say, okay, Rache, when you were little, did you grow up saying, I wanted to be an innovation strategist or an innovation lead? Can you share with us a little bit about your journey that brought you to kind of this work that you do?
Absolutely. That's such a good question. And it's overwhelming for me to even think about. But as a little kid, first of all, both my parents are in the arts and they're very creative. My dad actually worked for Alcoa Building Products, and I spent a lot of my life moving around the country and the world as a result. And so when I landed in my high school experience, I'd already been in 11 schools before I got there. And that had shaped me as a human because there have been so many different people, friends, unique experiences, elements that I had experienced throughout my time. So just examples, I lived in Troy, Ohio, and that's where, they had kicked off the whole DARE campaign. So I was a DARE lead for drugs abuse resistance education. I loved that and being a part of that crew. I had also lived in Minnesota, and our house had been built on top of a waste management trash heap. And so when you dig into the garden, sadly, and I'm sure this was very bad for us, but things would come up. And so I would have these visions, and my dad and I were advocates with the waste management program in Minnesota and Edina. So I had had all these very weird experiences before I even landed in high school.
Wow, that's amazing. Most of us are like, I don't know, I didn't do well in history, so here I am. And you're already advocating, out making a change in the world. That's amazing.
It was kind of interesting. But part of that, so I went to a great boarding school in Pennsylvania called Mercersburg Academy, and they had an interesting style of learning with these tables that were all centered. So you were looking at your cohorts within your community. And I think that really set the tone for ecosystem building and innovation for me, because as we were learning, we were actually playing off of each other's energy throughout that experience. I'm a total community person. I like to call myself a human connector, collector, whatever you want to call it. And throughout my relationship in both business and friendships throughout the years, I've always been the one who's kind of created the parties, made sure to always make sure we had a robust community, and onward. So I came to here after a series of different moves. I've been in London, I've been in Baltimore. We were in San Francisco and Guatemala. And when we were in Guatemala, that was a really foundational time in my life with my husband, where we were able to kind of figure out how important community was to us. So moving here to Connecticut, that was top of mind. And I love my relationship with Launch and what we're doing with CT Next to build this very robust and interesting ecosystem here in Hartford.
Wow. Okay. I'm still unpacking. I'm like, wait, I need to talk to you about Guatemala. I need to talk to you about your speaking my love language of human collecting and community. I love that. And like I said, before we were speaking, vaguely familiar with the term ecosystem. I'm going to back up a little bit before we get you to your recent move here to Connecticut. Tell us a little more about Rise and the role you're playing in Rise and this interesting sort of intersection of innovation and sometimes things that we don't think about being very innovative. But I think that's because we're the end user, not the person who has to think about making it interesting.
Absolutely. So years ago, I was an early founder. So I had my own company called Tilt in 2000 and really from 2001 until 2012, where I was working kind of in a relationship of design and building. I always wanted to do something a little off, which is why it was called Tilt. And I was super focused on sustainability. So I found in the experience, first, I've been a part of the problem as much as I want to be a part of the solution. I worked for big business like McDonald's and Compass Group. Compass is the seventh largest employer in the world. They feed more people a day than any other person on planet Earth. And one of my roles in both of those organizations was really helping to push more food. But what I felt was important is that if you could incrementally make change, you could actually move the needle towards a positive end solution. So I would say that my expertise is really in that problem solving to how to get more food in more bodies quicker, mass market consumption. But I've tried to come at it from a very unique lens, and that's how can we make it just a little bit better. So I had a job that was pretty pinnacle for me, and that was with Chobani yogurt. And I helped to re-strategize and reformulate their food service division. At the time I came in 2013, they were at about $23 million in sales. And we went back out to the community and really talked to all the different stakeholders, key stakeholders, and we asked them what they wanted. And we found a lot of information out that we wouldn't have found if we didn't ask. But the end result was that we needed a different formulated pack size. We needed to figure out how to actually support the people within the community of food service better, the chefs essentially. And then we also needed to help educate the students on what a better product, something like a Greek yogurt, would do for that target audience. So it included education, it included retooling or R&D, and then also kind of communicating in a thoughtful way and always delivering. So we went from about 23 million to 880 million in just under 4 years, which is a huge growth. And that's just because some of these changes were really incremental.
Wow.
So yeah, so with Rise, that's what I do today. I commercialize big ideas. I really help to support some of these unique ideas that people have that they either A, haven't brought to market yet, or B, are trying to find the right way to market. And that's what I do.
I love that you've given the example of Chobani, because that was going to be one of my questions, right? Like, I'm not going to poo-poo CPG but I really appreciate how you opened that up, because that was one of my things is, I feel like people on the marketing and sales side are just, it's more and more and more and more, right? And as consumers, or enlightened consumers, hopefully, we're being told, well, wait, could it be less? Could it be different? And I so value how, as opposed to coming in with more, you came in from the angle of, wait, how do we think about it in terms of educating? How do we do it in terms of true service? How do we do it in terms of true nutrition versus coming out of the angle of more, and truly listening? So I love how you've sort of exampled, as it were, your kind of different angle and lens in doing that work. You've got that going on. And when you're doing that work, how do people, do they come to you and want you to, strategize their whole process? Do they want you to come in and be part of their team? What does that look like sort of in real time?
It depends. In that case, I was a consultant. In most cases, I'm a consultant. People typically come to me with a really big problem to solve. And what I do is I look in my arsenal of technology first. I always lead with technology, like what is out there on the market that's unique, that's focused on the area that they want to be in, the go-to market or product market fit with the consumer audience that they're seeking. And we look at all of those relationships first. So it really is community building kind of within each organization. It's figuring out who are the right stakeholders to help them to get to market. So I take that kind of like top, I would call it like high level approach, and look at the whole community and what's being done first. And then I figure out the right path forward. So I really try hard not to just make assumptions or share my specific ideas right out of the gate without knowing all the information, because the reality is there's a lot of ways to slice and dice the opportunity to get you where you want to go. It's just a matter of figuring out the right one for that business.
Nice. And I assume you also can, in doing that, help bring the 30,000 view or the forest for the trees for those businesses or those people with the big ideas who are kind of in it and can't sometimes see outside or around it, right?
And oftentimes they're technologies that people haven't heard of. So the idea of commercializing it is daunting, because to get a new idea on the market is really really challenging. So something like a Greek yogurt, I mean, we hadn't consumed Greek yogurt as a society before Chobani came.
Right.
It was a whole education around what that even looked like.
And here it is, part of our everyday, consumption. Rach, you have that going on, and that was not to East Coast or West Coast it, but I understand that's what you were working on and still working on as you have made a move from being West Coast to East Coast. Can we dive into now, again, more of this ecosystem work that you're doing here in Connecticut? How did that come to be, or what does that look like? And what are you seeing? Like, what do we, as people who are interested in sort of becoming more involved and seeing better things for our communities from a business and living standpoint, what does that look like from your view?
Yeah, so I'll touch on the West Coast piece. So I was only there for a short period of time physically living there. We were actually in Guatemala for the majority of my time working on the West Coast.
Wow.
But we had moved there just before the pandemic because I was in the process of raising a fund I was a partner in, and it was necessary for me to be there. So I was sick of the red eyes, which were becoming weekly and just too much for myself and my family of small children. So we went and moved to California in December of 2019, even though I had been working there for the previous 2 years.
Okay.
So just to give you the timeline. And what I had found working in the San Francisco market was, first of all, an openness to innovation and ideas that you just don't see really anywhere else. So the excitement was that any idea was possible, and these people were coming up with exceptional and outstanding ideas that crossed the industry lines. So no longer do we really think in terms of industry or the box that a person needed to be in, but its technology made it kind of agnostic and could say, okay, wow, these are really cool concepts, and where they fit, I'm not sure yet. And so that's how the commercializing of those big ideas really became kind of my interest point. And when I moved here, I felt immediately a little lost in terms of the quality of innovation that I was seeing, not because it wasn't here, but because I couldn't find it easily the same way you stumbled over it in San Francisco or LA or wherever on the West Coast. What's excited me about the opportunity here in Connecticut is that as you start peeking under the hood a little bit and looking at different companies, there are really, really big ideas. It's just not talked about in the same way. So my hope through what I've learned on and throughout my life and my experiences and being this human collector, I'd really like to start bridging that gap and finding ways to have people working together in similar ideas or disciplines and help bring those great ideas to market because they need to be seen.
It's those reserved New Englanders up here. They're just a little more buttoned up and they don't go flashing everything, like that doesn't, it's curious. I wonder if it's cultural as well, but I understand what you said about San Francisco when I was I was in Seattle and I felt the same way. I'm like, you just can feel it in the air, right? Like it's just part of what's going on. Rach, in terms of, well, welcome to Connecticut. We're glad to have you. It's going to be a better place for you being in it. Tell me, if you don't mind, where did your intersection with Haven come into play? Did they find you? Did you find them? I know you were recently a judge on the most recent Haven Hatch.
That's right. Yeah. So I was in an interview for launch actually, and our wonderful board member, Julie Donofrio from FML, had said, wow, there's this like really cool company near Darien. I really think you need to meet. They're called The Haven. And I was like, oh, okay. So I like immediately went on. And I also have a separate interest point. My husband is an artist. He's an incredible artist. And I always like to find unique relationships for him. And right smack on the homepage was Maria Allen's Real and Powerful meditation walk. And my husband's a Zen Buddhist, and this is like one of his passions. So I was like, oh my God, this is the place for me. Like, I need to be part of The Haven. And I had an opportunity to meet with Maria and Felicia in person in August of last year, and it was just magical. We had a wonderful hike with Maria after the fact, and Felicia really spoke. She really like just hit the nail on the head with every idea that she had. And at that point, I was only a month into working with Launch, and I had already started feeling like more and more pressure of just like, there's no innovation here. Oh my God, I need to find the innovation. So that sourcing exercise, The Haven has actually been an incredibly important and key role in my discovery of the things that I've found here to date and the relationships and the people that I want to know. So I feel so blessed to have found the Haven through Julie, but also that I've had this opportunity to really connect with not only great women, but really great people from all over the state who are doing absolutely wonderful things.
Yeah, it's a very special place, says the biased person doing the hubcast for them. But I think it's just been interesting to hear everybody's either entry point or intersection point and, what they've gotten, but also what they've given. And every single time it's definitely an exchanging. It's never tilted one way or the other. Well, Rach, I can't thank you enough for your time. I've loved learning about your ecosystems from your point of view. And I love that you're sort of breaking down these, as you said, what do we call them? Silos, verticals, boxes, and
Proverbial
making things,
walls.
yeah, proverbial walls, and making things seem a lot more connected, or finding the magic and the connections that some of us can't see. I'm excited to hear about that. So if people want to learn more or reach out to you, what's the best way to connect?
A carrier pigeon, for sure. Just kidding. So
Drive to Simsbury and see her in her new house. She would like company.
And I'd love to feed you. I love cooking. So you can go to brandsontherise.com, or you can send me an email to Rache@Launch in Hartford if you're interested in being part of our ecosystem here in Hartford. And I'm always available through the Slack channels at Haven or on Instagram. So feel free to reach out.
Fantastic. Thank you again, Rach, for your time. We loved having you.
Pleasure. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Haven Hubcast, a place to learn what business leaders and owners are doing to navigate and grow in today's market. Please leave a review on Apple Podcasts and subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Haven is a co-working space and virtual community located in the heart of Fairfield County, Connecticut. Haven is a hub for business owners and professionals to connect, create, and get stuff done. Find out more about the Haven community online at haven.com. That's HAYVN.com. Haven Hubcast is produced by Sound Advice Strategies.